Insurance. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to provide a trip for 12 to the Auburn game. That's on November 12th. To register for the 12th Fan trip, visit 12thman.com/12thfan. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is a proud corporate partner of Texas A&M Athletics. It is so good to see everyone. We are back after the bye week, and it is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit, and we are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here at College Station, alongside the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. Howdy, Coach.
Howdy, how we doing?
I'm doing well. Bye week and off week, two very different things. A bye week, your team still practiced. Your team was able to install things not just for South Carolina, but during that bye week, some things for the rest of the season. But it was still a work week, wasn't it?
Oh, it's got to be a work week. I mean, fundamentals, new things you're going to do against the other 6 opponents. It may be something they do unique that you have to put in. You'd like to introduce to your kids during that week so that game week it's not brand new to them. You know, and it's like at least read part of the book on the library shelf. You know what I mean? So when you pull it back out, you haven't a clue what it's about. You know what I mean? And been a lot of fundamental work and a lot of getting healthy and get back in the groove. Is
it as much a break, Jimbo, physically as well as mentally?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the physical parts of it you do. I mean, you get some days off, and then you have some hard days because you got to train. You can't get out of it. And then the mental strain of not having a game, but still the practices are very intense, and you got to get, into that groove. So, like what Tom Brady said the other day, once the season starts, the whole world stops. And that's kind of the way it is, and that's just always the way it's going to be.
Do you want them to get away when they had Friday, Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I think it's good to go home and just, whatever your friends, your girlfriend, your mom, dad, your family, whatever, whatever it is that you can just enjoy yourself and at least get back to some normalcy.
That time to reconnect with a lot of
exactly
people, isn't
right.
it? Yeah. How was that week, and so far, how is this week of practice?
That week was good. I mean, of course, we had the one scare on which is the first time that's ever happened. I've never heard of that, but that cost us a day of practice. But we had to be safe and do the things we had to do there. But this week, I was very pleased with today. I thought today went really well. Yesterday, you're installing a lot of things. Yesterday was good. Had a couple moments you got to go back and teach, but that was there. Today we had some new teaching, but still, referencing back to the day before, and I thought we were a lot crisper today. Monday, I was very pleased. So hopefully, good day tomorrow. We'll go play well.
Yeah, absolutely. South Carolina on Saturday, 6:30 at Williams-Brice Stadium. You had told me in your office you also get a chance to do the recruiting, and Milton is on Facebook, and he asks, in terms of recruiting, how do you go about identifying the best prospects in Texas and around the country, and then how do you determine who you are going to recruit?
Well, we got a network of people who get the film, then get the information, get the numbers, do the background checks, get into talking to them, and you evaluate them on film. There's got to be a certain talent level you have to have. And then you start doing all the necessary background work and all those things, and then you start the communication process with them, and get them here, get to meet them, get them to see what they see, what they want, what their goals are, and all the communication on the phone. And now you're texting, calling, doing all those types of things, and that is a 300. I say it's never been greater or more work than it is right now in the history of college football, recruiting right now. It is a nonstop, everyday, relentless, no matter how many. Now, we're working 14, 16 hours a day on ball. We build 1 or 2 that day or that night or whatever. You still got to find time to do that recruiting because it's endless. And we get that going, and then we build our network of people and go.
It reminds me of almost having to have a personnel department.
No, you do,
right?
And we're growing. That's part of our renovations and things we're doing. We're going to have a complete personnel department because that's the way the game's going. I mean, and you have to recruit so far ahead. And I say some kids get mad if we ain't offering by the time they're sophomores or juniors. All of a sudden, they're mad at you. You didn't offer me, or you're out of it. You know what I mean? So your identification of players, at least where you're going, but still there's late developers, but you got to find that out. So we're going to have, a personnel department. You have to have people for the portal. You have to have people for it's becoming, you have your free agents, which is like your portal, like in pro football, and then you have your unsigned people, which is like your recruits and all that stuff, and your draft, and it's becoming like that. And you have to have the number of people to evaluate the film, watch the film, get the communication, talk to them, bring them to you, see them. I mean, it's the numbers of people it's taking now is just growing and growing and growing.
So you have the players that you recruit. You may have some players who don't choose Texas A&M, but you don't burn that bridge any longer, right?
Oh, you don't ever. We never did it.
Right.
I never understood why. I could never understand coaches get mad at guys for not coming. You recruit him. He's an 18-year-old kid. He didn't choose you. Okay, but he made a choice. You ain't got to go yell at him or cuss him out or get mad and say, I hope you don't. There's a lot of it goes on. I say, hey, wish you good luck and go on because you don't ever know. Kid transfers back now, so even more so. You don't ever know.
Yeah, that's it's still all of some other things change, but relationships never do, right?
At the end of the day, that's what it gets down to. No matter what it is, it gets back to that.
Okay, so what I did after I left your office, I said I wanted to do this in the bye week because we have a little bit of time before I focus on South Carolina. John Wooden quotes. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit about these.
I watched a lot of them games, bro.
they were pretty good, right?
See, he started his national championship in 65, and I was born in 65.
There you
64,
go.
65.
There you go. Coincidence? I think it's more than just that. And one check-in I want to get out first before everybody else. Howdy from old Australia. Faye Spazovic is checking in from old Australia. Faye, thank you so much. We will continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It is presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Barker's Heating and Cooling is proud to be the official heating and cooling provider for Aggie Athletics, earning your seal of approval since 1979. A lot's changed since then, but our pride in Aggie football and our commitment to providing great service remains as strong as ever. Barker's says, "Gig 'em, Aggies." It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Aggies in South Carolina, Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. 6:30 will be the kick, 5:30 with our St. Joseph Health pregame show. So I'm going through all these John Wooden quotes because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. And when I focused on Jimbo to start, I always look at the quotes because they're so inspiring. But I wanted to see what Bill Walton had to say. And I've heard Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talk about John Wooden. And it's funny because when they say coach, there's so much more to that word than just coach. Kareem said his favorite line from him was, "Basketball is temporary, but knowledge is forever." He was the only coach who talked to, as he called him, Lewis at the time, Lou Alcindor. He said, he was the only one who talked to me about academics. Everyone else talked basketball, my recruiting. But he said, at some point, you're not going to be playing any longer.
John he understood you recruit talent, but the process of doing the right things is what allows talent to play. And his words of he was, as I say, wisdom. He had great wisdom, great patience, things he did. And people don't realize he really retired at a young age, very young age. And where he had many more years, like today, he'd be considered a young guy. I mean, and already won 10 national championships. But understood the big picture in developing those kids, and then it allowed them to become the players they were because they were the people they were. And they bought into it, and they did it. Like, for instance, I remember his first meeting of every year was how to put your socks on, which took an hour and a half or whatever it was. The proper way to put your socks on, pull them up so you didn't get blisters, because it was your responsibility for your feet not to be in bad shape. I mean, just the detail of how he went through things and how important things were.
It was because if you got that blister, you couldn't practice.
Exactly right.
But you missed that practice time. And he always thought the practice was the coaching. Right?
It
he
is.
loved the practice. You love the practice.
Listen, the games are great and all that. I love practice.
Yeah.
That's where you develop guys. That's where you build relationships. That's where everything is done, and that's the ingredient. And when you go away from coaching, that's what all the coaches miss. You don't miss the games.
Right.
And I don't mean that they don't like the game, but you miss the practices because that's where the relationships and all the true teaching and why you got in the business originally. That's where it's all the magic is.
Kareem said you did it until you did it right, and then you did it again.
See, I guess you don't do it till you do it right. You do it till you can't do it wrong.
Yeah.
You know
he said he wouldn't have played 20 years if it was that philosophy that allowed him to play 20 years.
And like John never heard to watch film of the other opponent. It was about what they did, how they did it, the way they did it. And now you got to have good players to do that. I mean, but being so fundamentally sound and making people adapt to them.
He said the discipline I learned through the drills has allowed me to face my devious opponent and beat him constantly. He said my opponent is now myself and my inclination toward laziness. He said I give a speech, I practice it again, and then practice it one more time.
Exactly right.
You've always said that about there's the tendency to relax once you've achieved something.
Human nature is to relax. Human nature is not to grind to be great. There are people that are great. There are 1% of people who good enough is never good enough, and it's constant all the time. And those are. They say it's an certain people, but I think you're made something in your life back here. It makes you be that way, and there's somebody who drove you to be that way, and you became that way. And it's not natural. It's to relax and take the easy way out.
Never mistake activity for achievement. Don't look busy. Right?
Well, my point is, it's like practice. Because you practice don't mean you're getting better.
Right.
You're either practicing it right or you're practicing it wrong. You're either creating a good habit or a bad habit by how you practice. Because great practice makes you better. Right. Not perfect practice makes you better. Not just practice. And that's a big thing today now. Because practice and getting kids to understand how to practice and want to practice is a different animal than it was years ago.
He said, be more concerned of your character than your reputation. Your character is what you really are. Your reputation is merely what other people think you are.
Exactly right. It's the truth. I mean, right is right, wrong is wrong. Because eventually, if you keep standing for what's right, it'll all come out of who you are and what you are. Reputations, like you say, it's not respect. You can get people to like you. More important, to get people to respect you. Because I respect a lot of people. May not always agree with them. A lot of times.
Right.
But you have great respect for what they stand for, who they are, and what they are, and you know who they are. That, to me, that's what my old man always told me. I don't care if anybody likes you. He said, you do what's right, you get respect. And respect is doing what's right all the time and being consistent and never wavering.
That never changes. That goes back to looking at that person looking back at you in the
exactly
mirror,
right.
correct?
The guy, and you can't lie to that guy.
No. You know the truth on that one. Talent is God-given. Be humble. Fame is man-given. Be grateful. Conceit is self-given. Be careful. You know it, right?
You don't. When you're a great player, you don't have to say anything. People will tell you if you're great. You know what I mean? And you get caught up in wanting to. We want likes, Twitter, Facebook, social media. Who got me? Who followed me? Who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just affect and do the right things every day.
Young people need models, not critics. Isn't that something?
Well, they got a lot of critics in today's world.
They do.
With social media. But see, I like to see John in today's world. That would be amazing how he'd interpret it and how he'd have to deal with it and the different things you have to deal with now. Because you never had those issues back then. And listen, there's very few models you can model yourself after. Because everybody's going after money, fame, likes, the charm, whatever it is. Very few people stand on the principle. And like I say, you can be doing things and not getting results and be going in the right direction, and you can be getting great results and doing things wrong and going in the wrong direction. And kids got to remind that all the time.
A coach is someone who can give correction without causing resentment. Right?
Yep.
That's how you know what, there's a teaching moment. Okay, I'm going to get on you, but I'm not going to do it here. That's what you learn. You've always said, if you're going to get into coaching, have a background in psychology.
Everybody ought to be a psychology major. That's what, if you're coaching, you should go automatically in psychology.
Yeah.
And different guys, some guys have to be gotten on that way. Some guys can't. Some guys are. And then there's certain things you have to address for your team. Some guys have to take that punishment of getting yelled at in front of somebody because it sets a precedent for the rest of the guys too.
Yeah.
And how the things go. I mean, there's a different way of going about things, but at the end of the day, it's you got to get them to do it. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it gets harder and harder now because you're getting so many more people in this, and they can get the vast amount of information. They can hear from so many different things now.
Yeah.
And it makes it different.
It's interesting, though, that this wisdom that you talk about goes through all generations. I remember at practice.
Nothing changes.
Right.
The reasons for success haven't changed from 100 years ago to now.
Yeah.
Now, the way we go about it and all the way we've wind addressed it and what we've made excuses for and what we think and what the media wants and what they all do it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't.
Right.
The reasons you win between the white lines, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, or whatever, tennis, soccer, golf, whatever it is the same. It's never changed.
You shared the story of the player who said to you, Jimbo, you say the same thing all the time. You say, when that changes?
When the reason for success changes, I'll say different things. And history's your greatest teacher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And go back and look at them and why they have it and why they don't. I mean, they have success and failures. But that's, that's where kids have to learn and who they trust and what they trust in.
Yeah. That's the powerful who you surround
But
yourself.
in today's time, it's are you telling them what they want to hear? Instead of telling you, I always say this, people who tell you the truth love you. People who tell you what you'll hear don't care about you.
That's a very fair question. He's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, taking on South Carolina on Saturday. Much more. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie football from Learfield. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. It is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It is presented by Capital Farm Credit, and we are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road in College Station. So we continue with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. Question time, and I guess Philip did not get his homework done. How do players interact with the media differently from when you started your career? Ian asks.
I don't think there's the trust there used to be. You had better relationships, in my opinion, with media back then, and guys, you could tell them things and they kept things hidden, or they wouldn't write certain things, and there was a I thought, a more personal relationship back then. Really was. I mean, it's just the way the world is now. And now, as soon as they get anything, it clicks, and they're, you know, and writers always try to trip you up when they ask you questions at the time, but not to the extent it is now because of the way things have to be. You know, you're trying to get clickbait, hit bait. I mean, that's just, I'm not blaming them. That's just the way the world is. They're trying to do their job to keep up to do it, but it was a much more personal deal, in my opinion, back then. There was a lot more interaction, even with coaches. Guys, you know, you could tell guys things, they wouldn't write it. They knew just the inner workings of things. You could have trust with things, and you know, it's just a different day and time. That's the way it is.
Bobby Bowden was famous for the Sunday morning, right? He had all the writers. They all got together, and it was very informal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very informal. He had breakfast with them and did all that. And coach was very charming. They trust him. I mean, but, you know, those, and then as he got later in time, I remember that was one of the talks we had. He said, you know, buddy, I don't envy you right now. He said,
Did he really?
Yeah, he said, I loved it, and my time's out. But he said, the way the game's going and just the media and all those things, he said, it's a different day and time. And he said, I liked it better back then.
Yeah.
You know, that was just the way, you know, because of the relationships. And you could sit down, and you had 15 people and ate breakfast with you, and you talked, and you had questions and personal things you share. I mean, you know, just those days are gone.
Yeah, they really are. Steve would like to know, how do you keep the team motivated for the rest of the year when it's an off or a tough year?
Well, I mean, listen, who you are as a competitor, who you are as a team, there's still a lot of things to play for. You don't know what's going to happen in ball, man. You go play these. You got 6 games. You're halfway through. You go play. But no matter what you signed up for, to me, you talking about character. This shows more about your character than when you're winning. You have success. When you have failures, and who's in the foxhole with you, and who's going to do it, and you know, you tell them there's going to be times in life you ain't going to want to keep going, but you got to keep going for you, your family, your bit, all the things that go on. And it's a great life lessons. And the guys with character and do those things, you know, they buckle up and they play and they do the things they do, which our team has done a great job of. We've competed hard in games. We just got to play better, but our heart, their soul, and what they're trying to do is there, and that's, you have those conversations with them.
When you talk about you love the coaching and the practice part of that, when you see that growth, how fulfilling is that to you?
Well, that's what it's about. I mean, It's like your kids. When you watch your kids do something, how proud you are of them, they don't understand why you yell at me and you push me. Yeah, because I love you. Because I know what you can be. I'm not coaching who you are. I'm coaching who you can be. And to get that, you got to get prodded. You got to get pushed. Some guys don't. Some guys have a lot more self-motivation. Some guys you can be quiet with. Some guys you got to ride. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And you can't accept. And you got to get them to understand they can't accept mediocrity. They can't accept failure. You know what I'm saying? It's not an option because it isn't in life. When you're kid, you got kids, you got family, you got a house to pay, you got bills to pay, you got things to meet, you got a criteria that has to happen. I mean, you have to do the things you got to do, and that's where you get in trouble, is when you don't do those things because you don't push yourself every day. Then you get behind, and then that's where you make bad choices in life and bad things happen. You explain that to them. That's how guys get in trouble. That's how guys don't do things. And then sometimes you got to grind every day. No, when you want to quit grinding, quit living.
Right. Mediocre in the SEC will have you at the bottom.
Mediocre anywhere.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you can't accept it. And listen, you may not get the results you want, but you can't have mediocre work habits. Right. You can't have mediocre thoughts.
And expect great results.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But period, you can't do that. And then no matter what it is, and you got to grind, and it will turn. It will turn.
That's the light bulb moment, right?
Yes. I mean, that's life. I mean, it ain't always peaches and cream.
No, it's not. We'll have more of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. When we come back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Howdy, Ags. Andrew Monaco here, inviting y'all to visit Costa Vida Fresh Mexican Grill. Baja-style Mexican made from scratch daily, serving breakfast tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated by our friend Holly in South College Station. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, and we are at Rudy's. Effie has checked in from Australia. Now we know we can do the show. But Rudy, who normally checks in from Corinth, is in Antelope, Oregon. What a travel, because Rudy was with a group in the upper southwest corner in Tuscaloosa for that game 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we know Aggies travel.
He made some ground. Wow.
I'm trying to think of the miles getting there. And that was the last time that the Aggies played was Alabama. And I was excited, Jimbo. It was a combination of the young guys team seemed to take another step. And I was thrilled to see someone like McKinley Jackson. I was thrilled to see Adarius Jones back on the field and back on that defensive line.
Getting Adarius back, he's had some bad luck, and getting McKinley back. McKinley, I mean, such a dominant player can be, and getting him back for the first game caused a lot of disruption. And man, and it's a shame because he was having an unbelievable camp, maybe playing better than anybody we have.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we're getting him back on the field. That's like say him and Bryce Foster and all those guys. We lost them early like that. You hate doing that, but it's great to see him back.
Yeah, it's just. And again, with that depth of that defensive line and then that disruption and what you had been telling us about Fadil Diggs, and there he is, just there on the edge, really disrupting that Alabama offense. That was really fun to see. Again, it seemed like it was another step for this team.
It was. We had yard to capitalize, had opportunities, protection up front, and who were blocking on the offensive line. We had our left guard and left tackle out of that game. And we had new guys and blocking those guys and give us a chance and block some guys and defensively create turnovers. And I mean, we had competition. We were right there. We just got to find a way to make that play.
I said to you in your office today, someone who did not flinch. You have Cam Dewberry come right in there, and Jimbo, I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, he did a good job. He did a really good job. And like he said, he got down, he said, man, things happen fast. He said, when you actually get on that field, how fast things happen and the intensity. But he adjusted and jumped right in. He's going to be an outstanding player. He has all the makings, and he's such a good guy. I mean, such a smart guy, such a conscientious guy. And he's very talented.
I was thinking in the course of that game, here's Matthew Wyckoff, who's there at left guard. Bryce comes out, goes right over to center. It's Kenyon Green all over again.
Yeah,
right?
you got
versatility.
And then we play those guys a lot like that because those scenarios happen. You hate to say, well, that's never. You better plan for the unexpected and think of three more things than plan for.
Yeah. When Cam says when he says that cannot be replicated, right? You can try all you want.
No, game reps and getting in there and seeing it, and actual game reps and how fast it happens, how quick it happens, and that just takes time to adjust.
So you remember when Haynes 2 years ago in the drive against Alabama, and here's Haynes again 2 years later, right? I can just imagine asking him. The speed had to be completely different.
It was. I mean, it starts to slow down, and you see it, but it's just part of your growing process.
Yeah. Even to the point, Jimbo, I was thinking there were so many similarities between the games. The 3 and out to get the ball back with 1:50 remaining on that drive. I'm like, you know what? A lot of things are happening.
They are.
Bryce Foster comes back in showing his toughness.
Yes.
And can you explain to everyone just how tough Haynes King is? Because
he got banged up in that game early, and the shots he took and the things he took. I mean, he phenomenal plays, and we got to keep playing well around him. And he made some mistakes, but not when you really watch it. I mean, he got out of what he had to get out of it, and give us a chance to win and competed well, made throws, made plays, and did a heck of a job in the game.
You know how I always ask you about if a player has it? Is toughness part of it?
Toughness is number one.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me talking about toughness, mental and physical. The mental part of failure and success, whatever you got to deal with, and the physical part. If your quarterback's not tough, your team's not tough. And it's effort and the discipline and all those things. But toughness, listen, you play in pads and a helmet for a reason. This is a violent sport, a physical violent sport. You can't hide in this sport. I don't care how skilled you are. The toughness will come out. The toughness, you go look at the greatest players, even though how skilled they were unbelievably tough and competitive.
Mm-hmm. Walter Payton.
Oh, Lord.
Right?
I mean, that's a different level. I mean, that's a whole different world there now.
Yeah.
I mean, but those guys, you can't, what they go through and what they say, and that's why people love this game.
Right.
You can say it all you want. I mean, all these other games are unbelievably skilled, but the toughness that you have to play football, different.
It's the ultimate team game, correct?
It's the ultimate team game, and it's the ultimate individual game because the responsibility, how great it is, how each part of it manifests itself into the team. You know what I'm saying? And then those toughness and all those qualities, have to come out and for your team to be good.
And I asked you also today, will all your quarterbacks have that toughness element to them?
It's hard to be around me if you don't. I don't mean that in a bad way.
No.
I can't. Those guys, one of the things we try to look at in recruiting, guys are competitive and tough, and you do it. And I've been blessed to have some we've had guys play broken legs, shoulders. I mean, that's not, but they won't come out. I mean, they won't tell you. Find out later. You won't believe. And then how those guys, you wonder how well your team plays. It's because of the respect they have for that guy who's standing back there.
Yeah, that was one of Kellen's great attributes, wasn't it?
Oh, Lord, tremendously.
And then to hear an offensive line, Jimbo, say, it's not him getting sacked. We don't want him to get hit.
Yeah, well, I mean, they take pride. That's with the respect and the pride, and they know it's wanting to do your job. You have pride in what you do. Listen, you say that name's on the back of your jersey, and you're watching it individually for your team to be good, but there's pride in what you do. If you don't have pride in how you do your job, how are you ever going to be great? How are you going to ever achieve anything? Right. I don't care what you do. I'm not that time to be a football player, whether you work in business, whether you work in the law world, whether you work in whatever, engineering, you're in agriculture, you're a farmer, whatever it is. What's farmer? How the fence look, how the farm look, how trimmed is it, how the cows look, are they fed, is it sloppy, are the fields cut? I mean, you take pride in how your yard looks, how your house looks, how women, walk in that house. My grandma, boy, Lord Almighty, don't have nothing. I mean, spick and span. I mean, you could eat off the floors. You know what I mean? Because that was her. That's what they did. Right. I mean, there was pride because that's what she was responsible for. And that's what the whole world's about.
Whether it was family coming over or company coming over, right?
Exactly right.
It was going to be the same way. That toughness is, and you've always talked about as the bigger narrative. Oh, here's Devon Achane. He's a track guy, and you always said no.
No. He's a football player.
Football player. Yeah. And it's that toughness that becomes the separator, doesn't it?
In this sport especially, it does. And I think in any sport it does. Your competitiveness, your toughness, your mental and physical, but it does in this game. You have to. You can't, because listen, you're going to be hurt. You're going to be hurting. You're going to. I say, well, I want to be careful. I don't want my shoulder to ever hurt. I don't want my knee to ever hurt. I don't want my. Then don't play football.
Stop playing. Right?
Stop playing. It's going to hurt. It's going to be sore. It's going to swell. It's going to get hit. Somebody's going to fall into it. I mean, it's like saying I want to be a swimmer but don't want to get wet. You know what I mean? I never want to get wet in the water. I mean, it's just a part of the game. That's why we love it and watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can say it all you want. At the end of the day, that's why America loves football.
Yeah.
And nobody else in the world plays it.
No, isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Nobody else in the world plays it.
It's foreign to them, right?
We're trying to. Everybody, America's trying to branch it out, but. Football ain't out there. Yeah. It ain't for everybody.
Yeah, it's that it's the 11 individual battles, as you always talk about.
Yep.
Leading to that team results.
But the physicality of it.
Yeah, and every position now, Jimbo.
Every position.
Right. Your receivers have to be tough, right? The secondary has to be tough.
You got
Antonio Johnson.
Everybody has pads and the helmet on for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. He's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, who take on South Carolina on Saturday at 6:30. We get started at 5:30 with our St. Joseph Health pregame show. We will take a look at the Gamecocks when we return to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credits. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And don't forget, Rudy's serves breakfast tacos every day until 10 a.m. Sometimes that's pronounced breakfast tacos, and they are served 10 a.m. every day. I'll do the make good right here. Los Fresnos, Houston, Odessa, Fred, Brock, Belton, Texarkana, Flatonia, and San Antonio have checked in the States. We have a check-in from Alaska, Cape Canaveral, and Jane Lou, West Virginia, as well, has checked in.
Jane Lou.
Yeah, there you go.
Right down the road. Lewis County.
That's absolutely right. South Carolina on Saturday. Gamecocks 4-2, also coming off a bye week. Their most recent game was an impressive win over what we're finding out is a very good Kentucky team.
Yeah, they are. They did the first play of the game. They got a turnover, took it down the 2-yard line, punched in, got a block punt in that game, which they blocked 5 punts on the year. They've done a tremendous job in that. I think we've got 3 field goal PATs, but they've got 5 punts in what they're doing. They're very good, always special teams. Offensively, Rattler, quarterback's making a difference, plays very good. The receivers, 10 can run. The receivers catch the ball. The back number 1 can really run. Yeah. He's a good player. Offensive line's veteran group. Second, and the Birch and Pickens up front seem like they've been there forever. Big 5-star guys, plus the other guys, the linebackers, 4th, 5th-year guys. Secondary, young guys and older guys all can play 9, and he was an all-conference player last year. So I mean, they're a very good team, playing very good.
You get that mix of the youth and experience. I learned this week that Jordan Birch, if I'm not mistaken, kind of a slow start while he was there, really blossoming. And it always reminds me of what you have said about those guys. Even if you don't do it at 18 and 19, what you are coming in isn't exactly what you are when you leave.
Exactly. When you can stay to your 21, 22, and sometimes 23 years old, it makes a world. Now, you don't see that very much anymore. For those 4th and 5th-year guys, man, it makes a world. You're a different human being than when you're those first couple years.
Yeah, that that maturity. We've talked experience so much this year. You can't rush that maturity sometimes, can you?
You can't. I mean, talent's one thing, but how talented you are is one way, but how good you are is another. The ability to play and do the things that you have to do to be a good football player. And, and that's why guys will get drafted on ability. You know what I'm saying? They're productive, but knowing their best ball's ahead of them and getting developed. But right now, that becomes the way the NFL practices now. It's hard to develop up there as much as you do like you used to. And so I think if guys are really paying attention, the more you get drafted, staying here and getting developed would be the best thing to do. So, but we'll see.
Yeah. Got a little history lesson today as I was in your office before we talked. Someone asking about Shane Beamer's dad, Frank Beamer, and Beamer ball. And you kindly reminded them that Frank Beamer learned from Bobby Bowden.
Well, a lot of it. They spent on punt blocks. If you remember back in the late 80s and when, of course, Dion, Terrell Buckley, and all those guys had great punt returns. Before that, they had great punt blockers. They blocked a lot of punts through the 80s and 90s, it's that late 70s. And tremendous. They put pressure on the punter all the time. And they had great returners and a lot of the special team stuff. And they spent a lot of time down on their punt blocks and all the different things they did. And, that goes way back. I remember Coach Bowden telling me about that. We had this conversation. Now, he wasn't raised. He said, no, they come down and spend a lot of time and learn. And, of course, they took it and did a tremendous job with it. I mean, Frank, as that was when he was his baby. That's what he did as the head coach.
Yeah, it's that for him, that was the separator.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
For a lot of times it was
he took Virginia Tech and different teams and found guys, hard guys, tough guys, developed guys, and they made a difference in special teams.
That could not have been an easy place to play, Jimbo.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was hard to get to in the mountains of Virginia, down in there in Southwest Virginia, and hard trip in there, tremendous loud. Yeah, playing Metallica when you come walking through that. You come walking through those tunnels, man. And I was there twice. I went. Matter of fact, a year after we won the SEC championship, first not the national championship, but the SEC championship was LSU. We got beat at that first year, opener. We got beat up there, and then played there with Florida State team one time. Rashad Green was on staff. We took a 2-minute drive, and he caught a big pass, and we won it and come back. But I mean, it's always been a tough place to play, man.
You earn that victory there, don't you?
All the time. All the time.
And Shane Beamer just seems to be a good fit, Jimbo, at South Carolina.
He's done a great job. Shane's a great guy, a good coach, and he's got great background in where he's come from, and he's doing a heck of a job.
I keep thinking about that. We talked last year when Mark Stoops' name came up for jobs. What did Bobby say to you? Do your job. Don't worry about what the next one is, and it's almost like the grass isn't always greener.
No, when you
places,
find
right?
if you keep looking for that next job, you're not doing a good enough job. You spend too much time worrying about that job you have, and if every job he ever got, he said he never applied for. He was doing a great job with the one he had. Somebody come ask him to come there, and that's kind of how you got to do it. And I still believe in that.
Yeah. Saturday, 6:30 is the kick. 5:30 our pregame show. The Aggies in South Carolina. One more segment. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Come on back. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Aggies Can is celebrating over 2 decades of giving back to our local community. Text Aggies Can to 83200 to support the Brazos Valley Food Bank now through November 17th. Special thanks to Brookshire Brothers, HEB, KBTX, and Whataburger for partnering with our Student Athlete Advisory Committee in support of the Brazos Valley Food Bank and the 12th Can. Again, text Aggies Can to 83200 or visit 12thman.com/Aggies Can to learn more. Great initiative that happens here in the Brazos Valley. Our final segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, the Aggies and South Carolina. The last thing that I asked you, and we'll hear that on Saturday, that reminder to everyone, Jimbo, about what becomes most important. And I know it's the faceless opponent, but what becomes important against South Carolina on Saturday?
I think the quality. Anytime you're on the road, you have to take care of your business and turn. You always say momentum swings, getting the home crowd in and getting things going. Well, what affects that? Turnovers, big plays, getting them and stopping them, not having turnovers, getting turnovers, and then your third down conversions, your red zone, and all the different things that go on. And being physical, being able to run the football. You got to be able to calm them down on the road and be able to do that, and you got to keep great balance. But you're getting big plays, and turnovers are always going to be very critical on the road. That's because that builds momentum, and when you're on the other team's home field, it gets the crowd into it and gets things going. You got those turnovers in Alabama, and you got points off those turnovers. We did. We got points on them, capitalized on them, and that's why we got to play complementary football and add some more points. And create a few more stops and play a better football game.
Are you seeing that offensive line coalesce a little bit more?
They are. They're getting better and better. They are getting better and better,
Yeah.
which is allowing. That's why I say, then you see the quarterbacks play better, then you see the skill guys play better, and then you see it all starts up front. I don't care on which side of the ball it starts. Offensive line, defensive line is where it's all going to start.
Yeah, you've always said the guys with the hands in the dirt, and you get some guys back. That's the nice thing about the bye week is healing, and some guys who have been out of the lineup are going to be back.
Yep,
which is good.
It's really good in depth and going down this road.
The depth. You've always said that, right?
This league is so physical. Everybody's got players, and it becomes just such a grind, and keep that rotation going.
Yeah, it's funny because you had the stretch of just in the conference of Arkansas, Mississippi State, Alabama. Does it really matter what three you play in the SEC, Jimbo, right? They're all physical, aren't they?
They all got guys drafting. They all got big guys up front. They're physical.
Yeah, absolutely. But it'll be something. Saturday nights in Williams-Brice Stadium.
They're always tough.
Their crowds are really good.
They are. They got great crowds, great environment, great atmosphere, and we're going to have our hands full.
That makes it for fun, though, right?
Well, no. I mean, that's why you come to these places. You go into those environments, go in those atmospheres, and challenge yourself.
Yeah. When you talk about South Carolina, you use the word opportunistic. Does that force you to be sound and fundamental? I know you want to be that every week.
Yeah, you do. I mean, they do good. They don't beat themselves, and they take advantage of your mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Beat the hell out of South Carolina.
Thank you.
Absolutely. He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, and they take on South Carolina. That will be on Saturday. 6:30 is the kick. Actually, foot to ball at 6:39. And then we will have our pregame show. That comes your way at 5:30, the St. Joseph Health pregame show. We will hear from Max Wright. We will hear from Antonio Johnson. We'll also hear from Jimbo Fisher. And we'll also hear from Moose Muhammad and Anaya Smith during our St. Joseph Health pregame show. Will Johnson will have that one-on-one. Dave will have his keys, and we'll get you set for a Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium. South Carolina comes in at 4-2, and as we mentioned, they're also coming off the bye week, and their most recent win was a win over 13th-ranked Kentucky in Lexington. They won that one 24-14. So going to be a lot of fun on Saturday as the Aggies get back. And the final 6 weeks of the season, and as coach has told his team time and time again, they get a chance to change the narrative, and that begins on Saturday. Join us all along the Texas A&M Sports Network. We will join you 5:30, St. Joseph Health pregame show, and the kick between the Fighting Texas Aggies and the South Carolina Gamecocks at 6:30. At kickoff coming at 6:39. Kevin Menchow is our engineer here at Rudy's. Tony O'Neill is the producer of Aggie Football in our Learfield studios. And take this opportunity to send our condolences to one of our favorite people at Learfield. That is Matt Francis. He lost his father yesterday. He is in our thoughts and in our prayers. For head coach Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thanks so much for joining us for the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football in Learfield.